Welcome back to That Stupid Podcast. It's Wednesday, the 23rd of July, 2014, and that means it's
not just Wednesday.
It's wildcard Wednesday. And today we're talking a little bit of computer building stuff.
That's right.
In fact, our entire show notes consist of computer building.
Literally, mine just says computer building, and I think yours says computer building shit.
Yes.
That's all it says.
Those are our notes. And
we were super detailed in this.
Well, we were trying to come up with today's topic and we went back and forth on a few things, and what we decided is that we would kind of share our experiences building computers, maybe some things that we've learned, a couple of tips along the way, talk about our most recent builds, which for both of our cases,
it has been a while.
Yours a little bit longer than mine.
What, a little Aaron Lewis on that? Yeah.
That went really south.
Don't care.
So why don't you start with your build? What is your, just give me the specs of your current rig.
The current specs right now is I'm running a AMD 1100T black overclocked 6-core processor. I think it's currently non-hard overclock is a 4.1 gigahertz right now. I've got just 8 gigs of GDDR. I want to say it's 5. No, maybe.
Your video RAM?
No, yeah, just my RAM in general. Maybe it's 3. I don't really remember, but it's 8 gigs. It's
okay.
I don't even remember the brand. That's really sad. But
been a while.
I don't, but it is gaming RAM. It's got the nice little. It's the sawtooth rip saw RAM or so. I don't even remember. I got a NVIDIA 560 Ti in there. Yep. I've got 3 terabytes, 3 terabyte drives, no RAID array or anything. It's just set to manual backups.
Right.
The MSI board that I have in it though has every single. There's so many PCIe slots on it. It's ridiculous. I have 5. I have 5 X16 slots.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Where's all the video cards?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much the case there. Ugh. So what's your current build?
My current build.
Actually, can I
go ahead?
I'll do the build. And I want to give one tip that I find that is the most important thing that you should do when you build a computer.
Put the spacers between the motherboard and the backplane?
Well, no, that's not. Oh, that's very important though.
I know somebody didn't do that.
Ooh. Yeah. If you guys don't know what that does, it'll cause an electrostatic charge to basically fry your board because it's touching metal.
Touches metal, and bad things happen.
Very bad things happen. But the biggest thing that I found is, when you guys are putting those little on the motherboard, you've got stuff, and you've got these little plugs for the LED lights, those small power.
The front panel connector.
The front panel connector. Now. They make pieces, and a lot of them come with it now that is one piece.
You hook all that up,
you hook all it to it, and you just plug it in.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, though, I want to tell you about isn't just that piece. Don't put lights on the front of your computer. You're just going to get upset at 3 a.m. when you leave your computer on and wake up to a blue light, blue light, blue light.
Well, see, my computer's not in my bedroom.
Oh, mine is.
Yeah. So I have an office for that. So
I have an office. I just don't use it. I just got sick of it.
That's where your computer belongs.
No. My computer belongs to my room.
Anyways, goes in your room. My current build, it is a quad-core i7, 3.6 gigahertz.
Are we gonna have the Intel AMD debate? Is that
no? I go back and forth. I actually have a 1090T in another rig that I have downstairs. Right. It's a great little processor.
Yeah.
I typically go back and forth.
Whatever's cheaper at the moment.
Cheaper / I'll look at reviews. I'll look at performance statistics. And at the time that I was building this machine, the i7 was just...
It was slightly outperforming,
kicking the AMD's ass on the certain things that I needed it to do. So that's the direction I went. 16 gigs DDR3. I got 2 TI-5 or 660s in SLI, each with 3 gigs of GDDR5 memory.
Ooh.
And I got a 2 gig 560 Ti dedicated specifically to physics. Powering 3 27-inch IPS 2560 by 1440 displays, so I can game in stereoscopic 3-monitor wide.
If you need to do that.
Glory. World of Warcraft flying on a mount. I'm just saying, it looks bad as hell.
I bet it does. I've never had the urge.
You've never done it. That's why.
I've done it. I mean, I just
racing games, anything like that.
I guess that's what it is. I don't play racing.
Periphery going on. It's just amazing. I'm booting off 2 Samsung 830 series because the 840s weren't out at the time. 830 series 512 gig SSDs that are RAID 0 together because I boot off a drive that I don't really give a shit if it doesn't need backed up. I want core speed. So I have 1 terabyte of RAID 0 solid state booting drive. So it's like
done.
Yeah.
It's just boom.
It's super fast. And I use mostly gaming on, actually, because I want to talk speakers for just a minute too. I have one when I'm not using my headphones, and I use a Megalodin 7.1 USB Razer headphone. I love that thing. It's a virtual 7.1. It actually is pretty good.
No, actually, virtual 7.1. I know I've had it before and stuff like that. It really does work out very well.
I was impressed. I mean, for what it does. When I'm not using that, I used to use a 5.1 head unit in my office.
Was it the actual speakers that were built into the... Or are you talking about an actual...
No, I had an actual... it's actually sitting over there in the closet right now because I still own it. I just haven't... It's so much of a pain in the ass, and I've got in-wall speakers. That's what those boxes are right there that I'm eventually going to mount in the office.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to reset that up. But in the meantime, I'm using a pair of MAV40 studio, like Pro Studio monitors that I used to use, and a 250 watt subwoofer for like high power 2.1.
Can't complain.
No, it works really good. But for me, it's about the screens. I like the screens. I like the real estate. I use it for photo editing too, which is why I went with the IPS displays, obviously. But when you're gaming 2560 by 1440 at 60, 70 frames a second, it's just it's
nice.
A sight to behold.
But and we were talking about this earlier. Like, I have a baller PC. Yes, it's 4 years old, but it'll still play pretty much just about anything that comes out. Which is funny.
I mean, mine is really just a slightly upgraded version of yours, if you think about it.
I know you got way more video card performance than I do. Absolutely, way more.
True.
Other than that,
it's the same generation. I mean, it's basically the same generation. It's only a little bit newer.
Well, the 560 Ti is actually what they based the build on for all the 700 series, which is crazy because if you look at the price of what they're shucking those at right now, it's either way too much. Or it's like $100, and I've never figured out when or why they go on sale the way.
Well, the $100 ones are the cheaper, like PNYs, and they're
it's just
I've never seen an EVGA.
The EVGA overclocked 770s
for $100
was $119 on Newegg the other day.
Why?
I don't know why they were, but you can't SLI. You can't SLI them.
Well, that's why they're cheap. That's why they're $100.
And that's something I wanted to talk about. I don't know why NVIDIA is doing this, but every card that's capable for SLI right now is not something I would want to spend money on to SLI because you wouldn't need two of them. They're very expensive cards. They're over $200 at least, and that was the reason of buying two.
Or they're $2,000.
Yeah, that was the reason of having $100 cards on the market is because they're gonna be like, just buy two of these and SLI them.
And that's why they did.
And
that.
They're like, they were like, whoa, no.
Yeah, bastards.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is everybody else, or I say everybody else, AMD, ATI, doing the same thing now. Bastards. They're cutting.
That's not cool, man. That's not cool.
No Crossfire, no SLI for anything that's under $200
lame.
card. It's
lame.
Nuts. It's nuts.
That is lame.
I can't justify the price.
Because see, I only build a PC once every 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5,
because I replace my laptop. Although it's funny. I say that I bought this laptop in 2011, and it's still running like a champ. So I guess I'll buy another iPad or something.
I guess you will buy another iPad or something.
I won't. Actually, I've already made that decision. I know the new ones are gonna have Touch ID. I don't care. I'm not
good.
No.
He says that, but then they're gonna come out and he's gonna get the itch and he's gonna go and buy one.
No, it's way too much money to do that a year later.
What is the most annoying thing for you about a computer build?
What is the annoying thing?
Yes, the worst process.
And there was a short period of time I stopped building computers and just started buying them.
Pre-builds.
I got so burned out building PCs and keeping up. But the number one thing for me is keeping up with knowing like what
you need and what. Well, not only do you have to keep up, you have to know what's going to be there 6 months forward.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're buying hardware that is it's outdated.
You've got to make sure that you're A, buying something that meets your requirements. B, buying something that you've got at least this much future proofing in that you can do small upgrades. So you don't want to buy a product line that's going to kill you, and then you need to, and it's just a ton of research.
There's so much research, and you can't talk to anybody about it.
No.
Because talking to people are like, oh, is that the one you're getting? Well, that's the bad choice. You made a very bad choice on that.
Yeah, thanks for your help,
I appreciate the negativity, jerk face.
You could say instead.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did I mean, I don't know why people are super negative. They're like, oh, that's the power supply? Well, enjoy catching your house on fire.
Oh, I should mention, obviously, my big ass, I should talk power supply.
Around 1,000 watt.
I'm running a 1250.
Yeah.
Gold
I don't need it. I just have it because
I have 3 massive video cards.
I mean, you have to. You need it.
I kind of do need it.
And that's the thing is, I mean, I'm running $1,000, but the difference, I guarantee yours a modular, isn't it? You got that pretty nice, just plug it in.
Oh, I only use the cables I need.
Nope. Mine is a mess. It is a friggin' octopus inside that
now,
case.
I'm very meticulous
so OCD
about my cable management.
Wire wraps and everything.
Well, because airflow is important, and you found that out recently, didn't you?
Well, I found out that airflow was important. I mean, I know that. I mean, that's a basic standard. But, you know, that was the weird thing, and I don't know what it was, because the computer wasn't that dusty, but I cleared it out, you know.
Because you should clean your stuff.
You should clean your stuff.
He says every 6 months.
No, I say at least every 6 months.
It's more like 3 at the long end.
It depends on where you're sitting at, how often you use it.
And if your shit's on the carpet floor, clean that once a week.
Don't put it on the carpet. I don't know.
People do.
People do it, and that's fine. But look, if you have a case like a Cooler Master case or something like that, chances are you have openings on the bottom, and if you close those off, it's gonna screw you. Especially right there under the front casing, there's an area where the bottom fan, because my airflow works like this. I have a side. I have the side hole right here, which is sitting above. Yeah, the side hole. Air gets sucked in the front, then raises up, bypasses the passes through the video card, and then sucked out the back.
Okay.
So it literally works like this. But also, as it's doing this and it hits that middle channel, the CPU has a fan that sits on it as well, which blows out the side. So that is crossing over the CPU as well as blowing out, and then you're coming through the back. So it's got multiple ventilation, which is awesome.
And ventilation's important. You have to remember, you got to think about what direction your fans are going. You have to think about where things are. Because you have to make a decision where you want your air coming in, where you want your air going out, and it needs to make sense with the components of your machine. I'm not going to sit here and say this is the absolute way to do it.
No.
It really does depend on the case, the design, the amount of cards that you have in it. So mine, for example, is a very, very different.
I don't doubt that. I assume yours is probably a very interesting airflow scheme.
So with 3 massive video cards, the first thing I have is a 120 millimeter fan in the side panel, blowing right over those video cards because... I mean, they're
stacked on top of each other.
There's not a room, and they're stacked like
this.
Yeah, they have to be. So
they're huge cards.
We have air coming in there. I've got 2 80s that also blow in, or no, maybe they're 2 80s that blow in the front. I got 2 80s that blow in the back, and 2 120s that pull air out the top.
So you have a Cooler Master case, then I assume, right? Yeah. Cooler Master's notorious for being like,
and the radiator for my water cooler is also on top.
Well, that's something I also want to talk about. If you're a novice, do not use water cooling. I'm sorry. Don't.
I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to tell you why. Don't use custom water cooling, but if you want to buy a cooler, like the Cooler Master pre-built sealed kits, those are fine.
But
that's as far as I would go.
I wouldn't, personally, because I've seen too many of those they've burst. And it just ruins. It doesn't ruin things. As long as you turn your stuff off, go and dry it all out with silica.
I used to water cool. I used to air cool. I used to be big on air cooling. But the thing I like about water cooling is I can overclock the bejesus out of this thing, and it's not super loud. One of the reasons I use the 120, and actually I said it's a 120, it's a 240 on the side panel. I'm sorry. It's a big-ass fan. It's like this big. The reason I use 120s and 240s when I can... They like giant ceiling fans. Like this ceiling fan in my living room that has a 6-foot wingspan, it doesn't need to move that fast, which means it doesn't make a ton of noise. I remember the first time I did a high-speed air-cooled CPU. This was 1998, I think. When
I was 12.
Oh, God. I was building maybe 97. When did the MMX come out?
Oh, God, I don't remember.
Was it 97 or 98?
It was a while ago.
I built a 233 megahertz Pentium MMX, and I put a Volcano 6000 fan on it. You probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Actually, I know what you're talking about. Those are huge.
Yeah, so it was, heat sinks about this thick. It had an 80 millimeter fan on it, and the fan went...
Now, we should mention, for back in the day, that was a huge fan in your case.
Oh, yeah. And but it wasn't just that it was 80 millimeters. It was an 80 millimeter 15,000 RPM fan. Oh. You could literally, it sounded like a jet turbine.
I don't doubt that. That's what my video card sounded like before I did the...
So, and that was and it was great. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm clocking. That was pretty much the day that I decided
I'm going to overclock from the future.
Never again. I'm either going to do larger, slower fans or water cooling or a mixture. And I ended up doing a mixture of both.
Well, it is what if the water cooling goes out or stops working? You want to still have the fan back.
And I still have yet to water cool my GPUs, and not because I don't want to. The reason is GPU. If I ever do that, I will buy a GPU specifically designed to water cool, which means it comes just with the water cooling tank attached to it.
You hook it to the line.
You pipe it. those are never less than $1,000 anymore. And and if I'm gonna do SLI and I'm gonna put 2 of those in, I'm looking at buying 2 Titans because that's the series.
Because you might as well go ahead and pay for it.
I'm not gonna spend $4,000 on video card. I'm just not gonna do it.
Nope.
So I will probably never overclock that. I've overclocked RAM before.
I was gonna say another thing about GPU. You got to be really careful
water-cooled.
about doing your overclocking on GPUs because.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people blow their graphics card.
Now, EVGA does make it nice and easy these days.
They do. Well, it's always been really easy with EVGA for me, but
yeah.
I mean, because they're.
You still do need to be careful, though.
You got to be really careful because you're gonna go and don't do what I see everybody doing. I'm gonna overclock it a little bit, benchmark. Overclock it a little bit, benchmark. That's freaking retarded.
First of all, what you do, and this is overclocking. All right, you know what? Let's talk overclocking for a minute. Overclocking 101. Right out of the gate, you build your PC, you do not overclock anything in your PC. None of it. Zero. Not a damn thing. You do the 24-hour burn-in, and if you don't know what that is, go research the internet for 24-hour burn-in.
Yes.
You can usually find nowadays free programs. You used to have to steal them. You actually don't anymore. There's a ton of free ones out there. What that'll do is it'll stress all your components. Memory, video, processor, hard drive. If something fails, then it's gonna fail. And it's going to fail in the first 24 hours. Yep. So this is good to do, even if you're not going to overclock, do that anyway.
Now, would you want to keep the case on during the burn-in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You want to know what's going to happen. When you're done with the burn-in, you don't overclock. We're not to that yet. Start using the machine. Let that thing run for a week or 2. Break it in.
Yeah.
When it's broken in, run a benchmark. See what your benchmark is. Overclock it to whatever you think you can get away with. Run the benchmark again. If the benchmark application doesn't blow up on you, that doesn't mean you need to overclock it more.
Nope, it just means
you need to run it for another week and see what happens.
Because you want to get those levels adjusted to your computer, and you don't want to go, all right, so I'm going to take this Ferrari, I'm going to go 0 to 1,000 miles an hour right now.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
You're going to blow stuff by doing that.
And I know it's fun, it's exciting, and you get in there and you're like, oh my god, I hit 4 gigahertz and I hit 4.2 gigahertz, and then all of a sudden your house starts melting.
That's the thing.
You gotta go slow. You gotta have patience, and that's
and I gotta throw this out there real quick. I've got to tell you right now, make sure that your BIOS, when you buy these motherboards, if you're planning to do overclocking at all, make sure that they have the temperature checks on them, that you can just be like, okay, so if it goes above this temperature where you know it's not safe, turn that shit off because you don't risk it. Don't. That's how you burn holes in. And
I actually have a funny story about that one.
I
have a funny story that's not like that I had forgotten about that feature. I had turned it on, and I leave that feature on anyway.
So do I. Yeah.
DFI, which I don't even know if they make motherboards anymore. This is from the 90s.
I don't think
you
so.
were 12.
That's my favorite game to play with people.
This might have even been that MMX one. I think it was either that build or the build before that. I was playing probably. I don't know, Doom at this point.
Doom,
Quake. It was probably Quake 2 or something. And I was, all of a sudden, it shuts down. It shuts off. And I was like, well, that sucks. I'm like, what the hell? And I turned it back on, and I hear da 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 coming from the PC speaker, freaking Beethoven Furelise, and I'm like, shit. I thought I had, and people don't even know what this is.
Thought you had a virus or something?
I thought it was a BIOS virus. So BIOS viruses are something that you younger generation...
I don't even think that happens anymore now.
It doesn't. That's what I'm saying. They may not even all know what this is, but hardware viruses were a real thing.
Yeah, it was bad.
And I was freaking out. I grabbed I hopped online with another computer, and I start researching, and finally I found it. This particular motherboard's heat feature safety was to basically shut down, and its secondary protocol was to play Furelise by Beethoven.
Now, it's also the one...
You know what I did? Popped the case open, swapped out the fan, turned it back on, done. But
and back in the day, when people were making these motherboards and BIOSes, they had a lot of fun with these things. Now it's just like, you got the basic Dell, beep, 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 and that's, okay, cool, it's friggin' on fire in there, I don't know.
Yeah. But I had one catch fire once too.
I have had
not from overclocking. I actually had to shorten the power supply on a floppy drive, and I was like playing. The smoke starts bellowing out of the front of my PC. And I was like, "Oh my god!" I freaked out.
One last thing for me, since I do overclock, but I like to make overclocking as simple as possible. On my motherboard, if I want to overclock it, I open up and there's a knob that says overclock, and it has a minus and a plus, and it shows me, and I go boop boop, and it does it for me.
Lazy ass.
It does it for me.
Wow.
I don't have to change any settings. It's all in the BIOS. I turn a knob. Done.
Turn the knob.
It works out. And that's how I run 4.1 with stock cooling, everything.
I don't use stock cooling, but
stock cooling's not bad. You just got to know your limits with it.
You do have to know your limits. That's absolutely right. I am a water cooling proponent, though. I gotta be honest with you. I love my water cooling. I got water cooling in a couple of my servers too.
That is completely. I mean, yeah, we keep our server rooms. I mean, pretty cool. Do you got anything else that we want to talk about?
I guess in general, just because I think it's good to wrap it up. But in general, building a PC, a couple quick things to remember.
Don't spend $1 million.
Don't spend crazy amounts of money
because it's going to be devalued. It's buying a new car, 25% devaluation
right away, it's gonna
immediately.
Don't second guess your decisions after they're purchased. You can second guess up until the day you buy it,
but once it's bought, you're
commit
done.
to what you have, and don't be like, man, if I'd have waited another week, I could have got. You know what?
You'll spend forever doing that.
Right, you'll never buy it because it's always wait another week.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but you are going to feel that guilt sense. That guilt sense. I don't think you have it anymore, but I still have it.
I really don't.
A little bit.
I don't because at this point,
it's gonna happen. Just accept that it's
36 years old. I've been building computers for over 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem anymore. It's like, I remember the very first time I put 12 megs of RAM in a machine. That was...
Check out my 40 gig hard drive, you guys. I'll never need more space than that.
I remember putting double space on my 100 gig.
I remember when I had
my first terabyte hard drive. I mean, you can ask me about all hard drive.
That's the thing. Is I remember all my old Jazz and zip drives. And I was like, these are the future.
Click of death, bitches.
Oh,
the click of death. Yeah, don't ever buy that.
Nope.
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, I don't even think they sell that crap anymore.
Good, because they shouldn't. It's awful. But yeah, keep your stuff clean. Cable management is important.
It is important.
And it's not important just because it needs to look pretty, although that is nice. And people do take pride in their builds. They put neon lights in it, and it's cool, dude. If you want to do that, no, I think that's fine if you want to do that.
No,
I'm gonna say this. You need to switch to LED. You need to stop using neon. I like the lighting. I think it's cool. I do LEDs in certain places.
I didn't
in
know
mine.
People did neon. I always do LED.
No, well, I guess maybe because I'm old. Neons were a thing. Just like under the cars, they went in the PCs.
That doesn't sound a good idea.
It's not. They generate too much heat.
Yeah.
LEDs are nice and cold, and they are not going to generate heat. But that's the reason. It's not just because pretty cable management. It's also the better your cable management, the better your airflow. And the better your airflow, the better you can overclock. The better you overclock, the more fun you can have. You see how that all works out?
Get out there and start building PCs because we're about to hit that point of the year where everything is going to go on sale.
And that's the other thing. Pick your time of the year that you want to buy. Your best times of year are right after Christmas.
Yep.
Right before Christmas.
Well, I find it's anywhere from February, middle of January to end of March.
Right.
Or October to December.
Right. Absolutely. And there are different sales on different things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll even recommend
parting together something through a span of time.
This is where the research thing I mentioned comes into play, and this is what we'll leave you on. The only research you really want to do
CPU and video cards?
Is CPU and video cards.
That's the rest of that crap is all...
It's all dictated Legos. On those two things anyway. Mm-hmm. So when you, the Honeywell's shipping soon. Okay, great. That's fine. If that's what you decided you want, that's fantastic. But
don't be butthurt when the next series of those processors comes out and does something awesome that yours doesn't do now.
But I'm going to make a suggestion. And this is the tip. This is the very tip. And this is the research that I was trying to get to. Just the tip. When you decide on your processor, no matter what it is, whether it's AMD or it's Intel, we're not going to have that conversation. Nope. Maybe we'll have that conversation in the future. Do not, and I repeat, do not ever buy its first generation. And a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to think it's because it's buggy. It's not.
Same thing with video cards.
It's not because it's buggy. Video cards because they're buggy. Here's why the CPU. I'm gonna predate this all the way back to the Pentium, because the Pentium was the very first Pentium.
Yep.
Was the first time you really could see this process. What a lot of people don't realize about CPUs. The newer generation of CPUs are always made on the old production line.
Yes.
The first generation. Which means it's a different processing manufacturing, which means when the second generation comes out, like a year later usually, there's no compatibility between them.
Nope.
So when the Pentium 60
Thanks, AMD.
Well, when the Pentium 60 launched, it was 20% larger than the Pentium 75. Why? Because the Pentium 60 was built on the 486 line.
What he's saying basically is your CPU not going to fit on your motherboard.
Which means you have no upgradability. So if you want that new Honeywell, that's fantastic. Wait till it's second generation. If that means you have to wait another 12 months to buy a PC,
so be it.
So be it. You'll be
last happy.
longer.
It'll last
It'll
longer.
last longer.
You'll get probably another 6 to 8 months to a year out of it.
Because you know what happens in a year and a half when you're not happy with the speed? You'll be able to buy a newer processor because it'll actually work.
True story.
So those are our tips, and let us know what your builds are. Let us know what your tips are.
rocking out there?
And what have you learned when you're building computers? Oh, and if you live in a place with a lot of humidity, wear a damn wrist strap.
Please wear a wrist strap. I wear a wrist strap now. Yeah. Or I just keep a hand on the case at all times.
So I'm an elbow guy.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, elbow to the case.
It's about discharge, right? And that's the idea. They make grounding straps, they make grounding wrist straps, grounding pads.
Back in the day, though, it was just touch the friggin' case. Yeah. And it's not that bad now. Everybody's like, oh my god, if you touch your components to carpet, you're
components
gonna
are
explode.
Much more resilient than they used to be. But why take the chance?
Don't take the
chance. You just spent $200 on that video card. Why risk it? Why risk it?
Don't blow it.
So, but tomorrow we're gonna get off the computer stuff.
We're gonna be talking about pop culture.
We're gonna talk movies and stuff.
We'll
and
be back with it.
And junk and stuff.
Make sure to subscribe to us on the YouTubes.
Like us on that Facebook thing.
Their internets. And you know what? Leave some messages. Tell us about your build. Give us a video. You can call us at 480-STUPID9. Email us at show@thatstupidpodcast.com.
Leave your comments in the video below.
And we'll see you tomorrow.